Peace be upon you. I'm reading chee Kaew's biography, part 4, I believe. Following the Buddha's instructions, monks cease their wandering for the duration of the monsoon season to reside in one location under the protection of a roof. Ajahn Sao was first spotted in the humid, misty dawn when he entered the sleepy village, leading a column of figures dressed in ochre-colored robes. Walking barefoot and with an alms bowl slung across one shoulder, the monks appeared ready to receive what generosity the inhabitants had to offer: rice, pickled fish, bananas, smiles, and respectful bows. Stirred by the monks' serene, dignified appearance, the women, men, and children of the village scrambled to find some food to offer the Dhamma monks, all the while yelling back and forth to one another in their excitement. By the time Ajahn Sao and his monks walked past Tapai's house, her whole family stood expectantly along the dirt track at the front, waiting to place morsels of food in the monks' bowls and hoping to accumulate special merit by their actions. Eager to discover the identity of the new arrivals, Tapai's father, along with a few friends, followed the monks back to their temporary campsite in the nearby foothills. Although Ajahn Sao was venerated as a supreme master throughout the region, Tasson and his friends had never met him face to face. Surprise turned into joy and excitement when they heard his name mentioned. Tapai's father resolved to have Ajahn Sao settle in the area, if only for the duration of the monsoon season. Well acquainted with the local terrain, fast-flowing streams and winding rivers, overhanging caves and rocky outcrops, open savanna and dense jungle, Tasson acted as a guide to the venerable master, proposing various retreat sites for the coming rains. He was relieved, then overjoyed when Ajahn Sao chose to enter the retreat at Bang Klang Cave, situated in a forested area, scattered with flat, outspread sandstone boulders, about an hour's walk from the village. Long before their introduction to Buddhism, the Futai people upheld an ancient tradition of ritual spirit worship. They paid obeisance and performed sacrifices to benevolent ancestral spirits and to the guardian spirits of the forests. Ancestor worship was so ingrained in their character that the spirit shrine became a central feature of home life. Families presented daily oblations to placate long dead forebearers, actions believed to protect the family, the house, even the village from unpleasant occurrences, including the unpleasant consequences of neglecting that sacred duty. If things went well, that meant the spirits were happy. That meant the spirits were happy with the family's efforts. Neglecting the rituals displeased the spirits, which accounted for why things went wrong. Auspicious days were sought for the start of every endeavor, and propitiatory offerings were made to win the favor of local deities. The deities of earth and sky were not omitted. Due to an intimate association with rice and water, the Futai inherited an age-old saying: in eating, don't forget the rice field spirit, and never overlook the water spirit that brings us fish. So while the center of each village featured the Buddhist temple or wat, spirit worship still dominated a major portion of the villagers' lives. For years, Ajahn Sao wandered through the countryside, enlightening the locals about the virtues of moral behavior and explaining the causal consequences of their actions and beliefs. Ajahn Sao did not deny the existence of spirits and deities. They abided everywhere, in everything: forests, trees, mountains, caves, rivers, fields, earth, and sky, and he was tolerant of belief in non-physical existence. What he opposed was the belief that such entities were the causes, the instigators of human pain and suffering, and the belief that bribes of sacrificial offerings could guard against adversity and misfortune. Local deities and ghosts were as much a part of Futai village life as the sun, the rain, and the morning fog, and as inescapable as birth, life, and death. This Ajahn Sao did not refute, but he taught them that every non-physical being experienced the karmic consequences of its own actions. Each was the product of its own karma, just like the villagers themselves. Worshipping these beings was, in effect, attributing to them a power that they did not possess. The essence of Ajahn Sao's message was personal responsibility: pleasure or pain, happiness or suffering, having or lacking, all are a result of an individual's past karmic deeds, combined with one's moral behavior in the present. Preparing Ajahn Sao's encampment for the retreat required the construction of shelters to weather the monsoon rains, a single-room hut for each monk, and a central shala for meals and recitations of the monastic rules. Paths for walking meditation needed leveling, and latrines needed digging. With joy in his heart and a bounce in his step, Tapai's father quickly volunteered his services, cutting and sawing trees for stout posts, splitting and pressing bamboo for floors and walls, collecting and binding tall grasses for roof thatching. Paths were cleared, graded, and swept. Outdoor toilets were excavated and encircled with thatch. By the time Tasson and his friends completed the work, a small, orderly forest monastery had been crafted from the jungle wilderness. Spiritual transformation happened gradually for the Futai village. First one family, then another, took the leap of faith. Faith in the protective power of the Lord Buddha, and faith in their own moral virtue. Many burned their spirit shrines and objects of ritual worship to ashes. Some were skeptical of Buddhism and hesitated. Who knew how the local deities would react? Might they not take revenge? Naturally frugal with speech, Ajahn Sao used his words sparingly to counter common fears and inculcate faith and virtue among the villagers. In talks that were direct and easy to understand, he taught them simple lessons. To instill faith, he encouraged them to replace the custom of sacrificial offerings with the practice of taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. To inculcate virtue, he encouraged them to observe the 5 moral precepts, refraining from killing, stealing, lying, committing adultery, and taking intoxicants. The villagers learned that by guarding their minds and actions with simple yet potent practices, and thus avoiding behavior harmful to themselves and others, they would acquire the means to protect themselves, so as to help them overcome and rid themselves of fear. Ajahn Sao taught them the protective power of meditation. First, he guided people in saying homage First, he guided people in paying homage to the Buddha by chanting the Blessed One's virtues in unison. Once their hearts were calm and clear, he proceeded to allay their doubts and worries, speaking simply and concisely. Don't be afraid. As long as you meditate, focus on Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. The spirits will never disturb you. Everyone falls ill at some point in life, but it's nonsense to think that sickness is caused by ghosts and spirits. Our bodies are constantly decaying and renewing themselves. The human body and illness go hand in hand. It's pointless to ask your dead relatives for help. Far better that you practice meditation and dedicate the merit of your actions to their spirits. Then you both will gain some benefit. As custom dictated, the villagers, especially devout Buddhists, reserved part of each lunar observance day for religious activities. They went to the monastery to offer food, help with the chores, listen to Dhamma teachings, practice meditation, or undertake a combination of these activities. Tapai, now 13 years old, often accompanied her parents on early morning hikes to the forest monastery at Bank Lang Cave. Being a girl, however, she was not allowed to mingle with the monks, so when Ajahn Sao spoke to the lay people, Tapai sat far in the back of the shala, just within earshot of his soft, mellow voice. Seated behind the women and peering over her stepmother's shoulder, Tapai observed the atmosphere and the teachings. She, like all the villagers, had inherited the local cultural beliefs as a matter of course. Her world view was coloured by the same historical background, yet though she knew of the existence of spirits since early childhood, Tapai was not a superstitious person. She preferred instead to seek cause and effect relationships by means of common sense. So while her family kept a small shrine honoring the spirits, Tapai's natural inclination was to embrace the Buddha and the truth of his teaching. Thus from an early age Tapai felt the lasting influence of Ajahn Sao. She responded to his simple, down-to-earth manner, his even serene temperament, and his noble and dignified appearance. He inspired a deep devotion in her and left an indelible impression with his character, his words, his very presence. Even though she did not really make an effort to focus her mind in meditation as he instructed, Tapai sensed in her heart that Ajahn Sao had attained perfect peace. Soon Tapai felt the subtle force of Ajahn Sao's personality pulling her in a new direction. She first felt this pull on one memorable occasion. She heard Ajahn Sao praise the womenfolk for their generous support of the monks. Their daily offerings of food and other necessities were not only beneficial to the monks, but they were also a blessing for their own futures as well. He then added briefly and emphatically that the virtue of generosity was nothing compared to the virtue of renunciation practiced by white-robed nuns meditating in the forest. This remark stirred Tapai at the core of her being. The nuns said Ajahn Sao were a fruitful field of merit for all living beings. With that pointed pronouncement, Ajahn Sao had planted a small seed in the young girl's heart that would one day grow into a majestic Bodhi tree. Don't doubt the value of meditation or underestimate your abilities. Be content with whatever progress you make because it reflects a part of the truth you are seeking. As such, it, it is something you can rely on. Blessing of a lifetime. Ajahn Sao spent 3 years living in the vicinity of Ban Huai Sai village, first in one forest location, then in another. By the time he departed Ham Che district and wandered north, the religious landscape in the area had been altered for good. So influential was Ajahn Sao that most of the locals now favored Buddhist practices over spirit worship. Tapai's father had accompanied Ajahn Sao as he moved to different places in the area, suggesting new secluded spots and working with his friends to construct small bamboo shelters for him and his disciples. As much as anyone, he was pleased by the Buddhist renaissance spreading through the community. While Tapai's father was saddened to see Ajahn Sao leave, he was simultaneously consoled by his knowledge that Buddhism was now firmly established in the hearts and minds of his Futai neighbors. Little, little did he suspect, though, that Ajahn Sao's departure would be succeeded by the arrival of the most revered Buddhist master of them all. Ajahn Mun Buridatto was a legend in the making. The story of his life and spiritual attainments were to gain an exalted status unparalleled in modern Thai history. Already his sterling reputation had reached the northeastern provinces, passed on by word of mouth throughout the region. It was said that he expounded the profound nature of Dhamma with such power and persuasion that even the spirits were subdued in his presence. Devas, Nagas, Garudas, and Asuras were all captivated by the aura of his abiding love and compassion. His austere way of life had made him a master of the ascetic, a pioneer of the Dhutanga lifestyle. His disciples, the monks who lived by his example, had become his legion, and he guided them with the uncompromising discipline of a consummate spiritual warrior. It was rumored that by meeting Ajahn Mun only once, one would be bestowed with a lifetime of good fortune. A true wanderer, Ajahn Mun rarely stayed in the same location for more than one rain's retreat. After the rains ended, he and his monks roamed freely, unburdened through the vast northeastern wilderness like birds at ease, flying peacefully to wherever the wind took them, like birds who soar freely and are content to land in a tree, pond or marsh, than to fly off and leave all behind with no lingering attachment. So too did Dhutanga monks lead lives of sublime detachment. Thus, in 1917, as the annual monsoon season was fast approaching, Ajahn Mun and a group of 60 monks wandered down from the north to arrive in the wooded foothills overlooking the village of Ban Huai Sai. They camped under trees in caves under overhanging cliffs and in nearby charnel grounds. Following Ajahn Sao's groundbreaking path into the Ban Huai Sai community, Ajahn Mun's arrival caused a stir of excitement. The villagers were thrilled with the prospect of making marriage by supporting monks. The entire village of Ban Huai Sai welcomed the Dhamma monks with faith and gratitude. Ajahn Mun and his disciples took up their practice in their new surroundings, living simply and practicing meditation in the Dutanga tradition. Many villagers flocked to the hillside encampment on lunar observance days, and Tapai's parents made sure to join them. At that time, Tapai was hardly aware of Ajahn Mun's distinguished reputation. She had heard his name mentioned in connection with Ajahn Sao. The two had long been close. The two had long been close spiritual companions, supporting and encouraging each other in the way of practice. That much Tapai knew, but little else. Accompanying her parents from time to time, she noticed differences between Ajahn Mun and Ajahn Sao. She saw at once that Ajahn Mun's forceful, dynamic character contrasted sharply with Ajahn Sao's serene and even temperament. Physically, Ajahn Mun was shorter and more slender than Ajahn Sao, but when he spoke, he was much more active. His arms flew, his hands gestured dramatically, and his voice thundered. Tapai felt a little afraid of Ajahn Mun at first, a little wary of his intensity. In the village in the village each morning, as she placed offerings of food in his alms bowl, Ajahn Mun frequently stopped and addressed her directly, encouraging her to come see him more often. But feeling shy and timid in his presence, Tapai only dared to go on special religious days when she was with her parents and a group of the local villagers. Ajahn Mun was always exceptionally kind to her, often recognizing her presence on observance days and exchanging a few words with her. Knowing intuitively that she possessed uncommon spiritual potential and deep devotion, he began encouraging her to do meditation. He explained to her the same basic technique that Ajahn Sao had taught: silent repetition of the meditation word Buddha, practiced repeatedly and continuously until it became the sole object of her awareness. He emphasized that mindfulness, being mindful and aware only of the moment to moment recitation of each syllable, Bud Do, Bud Do, must be present to direct her efforts. It would make her alert and fully attentive to the rise and fall of each repetition. A simple method, she thought, but due to instinctive modesty, she hesitated taking it up at first. As Ajahn Mun repeatedly insisted that she try meditation practice, Tapai began to suspect that she must possess some inherent ability. She thought to herself, I was just an ordinary village girl, but I must have some inherent virtue. Why else would he show such an interest in me? From now on, I should take his advice and try to practice meditation in the way he has so kindly taught me. One evening after dinner, Tapai readied herself and went to her bedroom early. All day she had felt a willful determination welling up inside her heart. Today was the day to focus her full attention on the repetition of Buddha, just as Ajahn Mun had taught her. With devotion and a serious sense of purpose, Tapai began to mentally repeat the meditation word Buddha. After about 15 minutes of steady, deliberate recitation, her conscious mind suddenly dropped down to the heart and converged into a profound state of quiet stillness. It was, it was as though she had instantly fallen to the bottom of a well, where her body and mind vanished into silence. The experience was so new and so extraordinary that she had no idea what had happened to her. After a brief time, her mind withdrew slightly from deep samadhi, and she became uncomfortably aware of an image of her body lying dead in front of her. She recognized her own corpse very clearly. The image was so real and so vivid in detail that it convinced her she must have died. Suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, an anxious thought ruffled the calm. Since I'm dead, who'll take my place cooking rice to put into the monks' bowls tomorrow? Who's going to tell Ajahn Mun that I died sitting in meditation tonight? Quickly suppressing these worries, Tapai steadied her mind and accepted her fate. She mused, if I'm dead, I'm dead. Everyone in the world is bound to die. Nobody can escape from death. Even a great king must die one day. Her mind then became resolute and focused as she fixed her attention to the dead body lying prostrate before her. The image had not faded or changed in the least, which reinforced her impression that she was actually dead. As she pondered the consequences of her death without reaching any conclusions, a small group of local villagers appeared in her vision. They simply materialized in the picture, slowly picked up her limp, lifeless body, and carried it to a nearby charnel ground. As the villagers laid her body in the middle of the desolate area, she noticed Ajahn Mun and a group of monks solemnly walking toward the corpse. Ajahn Mun stopped in front of it and gazed down for a moment before turning to the monks to say, "This girl is dead. Now I'll perform the funeral rites." As the monks looked on impassively, heads slightly bowed, Ajahn Mun softly intoned the funeral chant, Anicca Vata Shankara, Sankara, Sankara. When the components that make up the body have died, the body is no longer of use. The heart, however, does not die. It goes on working ceaselessly. When it develops in the way of virtue, its benefits are unlimited, but it is used in harmful ways. It becomes a danger to oneself. With calm deliberation, Ajahn Mun slowly repeated this dictum 3 times in succession, standing tall and perfectly still except for the movement of his arm. He tapped her corpse 3 times with his walking stick, declaring with each tap, "The body does not last. Having been born, it must die. The heart, however, does last. It is never born, and it does not die when the body dies. It is constantly in motion, spinning and shifting, following the causes and conditions that led it on." Continuing to tap the corpse rhythmically with the tip of his walking stick, Ajahn Mun appeared to reiterate this truth over and over again. With each gentle tap of his stick, her body started to decompose. First the skin blistered and peeled, exposing the flesh beneath. Further tapping rotted the flesh and sinews, revealing the bones and inner organs. Entranced, Tapai watched passively as her entire body quickly decayed until only the hard bones remained intact. Placing his hand in the skeletal debris and picking up the kernel of the heart in his palm, Ajahn Mun announced. The heart can the heart can never be destroyed. If it were destroyed, you would never regain consciousness. Tapai witnessed the unfolding of the entire scene with a mixture of awe and trepidation. She was not sure how to understand it. When Ajahn Mun finished speaking, she puzzled. If the whole body decomposes at death, leaving only the bones to be behind, what is it that regains consciousness? Still looking at the kernel in his hand and without lifting his gaze, Ajahn Mun immediately answered her thought. It's bound to return. How could you not regain consciousness when the kernel that brings it back is still there? You will regain consciousness tomorrow morning at dawn. Tapai spent the entire night seated in meditation, completely absorbed in the vision of her dead body. Only at the first light of dawn did her mind withdraw from deep samadhi. As she was becoming aware of herself, she looked down at her body, seated on the bed. She realized with a sigh of relief that she had not died. Her normal waking state had returned, and she felt pleased to be alive. But then, as she pondered the night's events, she began to chide herself for falling asleep and dreaming throughout the night when she should have been meditating instead. She was sure that Ajahn Mun would be disappointed with her. Later in the morning, Ajahn Mun passed by her house on his daily alms round. As Tapai placed food in his alms bowl, he looked at her quizzically. Then he smiled and told her to come see him when he had finished eating. Her father accompanied her on the familiar walk to Ajahn Mun's encampment, unsure why she was asked to go. Could there be a problem? Tapai walked silently, brooding and feeling ashamed of herself for falling asleep in meditation. What was she going to tell Ajahn Mun? Certainly he'd be displeased. She wanted to hide, but she didn't know where or how. As soon as they entered the encampment, Tapai mumbled some excuse to her father and rushed off to help the women folk fetch water at the stream. Seeing Tasson approaching alone, Ajahn Mun looked surprised and asked him for Tapai's whereabouts. Tasson then quickly fetched his daughter from the stream. Nervous and uneasy, Tapai crawled to where Ajahn Mun was seated and bowed down 3 times before him. Immediately before she had to draw a breath, he asked her. Immediately before she had time to draw a breath, he asked her, "How was your meditation last night?" Timidly and awkwardly she replied, "It was just hopeless, sir." After repeating Buddha for about 15 minutes, I felt my mind drop down a deep well. After that, I fell asleep and dreamed all night long. When I awoke at dawn, I was so disappointed with my meditation that I still can't get over it. I'm really worried you'll scold me for my lack of effort. Upon hearing this, Ajahn Mun laughed with joy and asked her straight away, "How did you sleep, and what did you dream? Please tell me about it." When she told him what had happened, he roared with laughter. Delighted by her story, he said, "That was not sleep. You were not dreaming. What you experienced was the calm, integrated state called samadhi. Remember this well. What you thought was a dream was really a vision, arising spontaneously from the deep concentration of samadhi. If you have any further experiences of this kind, just relax and allow them to happen. There is no need to be worried or frightened. I don't want you to be afraid, but you must remain alert and fully aware of whatever takes place in your meditation. As long as I am living here, no harm will come to you. But from now on, please come and tell me about the visions that you experience in your meditation. That's all for today, everybody. Peace be upon you.